Hello everyone. I'm back here with another SQL video. Today's video is gonna be about what it's like to be an SQL developer. So we're gonna work together on a script that I had to do a while ago, and I'll show you uh, how you can tackle a task that gets assigned to you. Um, I'm not fully prepared for this video, so I'll just be showing you the steps that I had to go through. If we need to go look up something, we'll do that together as well. So let's get started. So the task that we wanna do today is basically just creating a simple script that once gets executed it would delete all the databases that you have on your server. This is kind of dangerous if this is something that you don't need, or if it's a task that you think that you'll never need. So, you can just watch and learn and try not to demonstrate what I'm gonna be doing. Uh, but for example, I use this a lot just because every few months, I need to clean up my server and refresh all the databases that I have. So, if this is something you do from time to time, this script would make things a lot easier for you. So, as you can see here, I have four databases on my second. So, this is not my main server, so this is just for today's demo. I have four databases here. I can also create a couple more. So create database, call it test 4, create database. Oops, can't really have spaces here. Test 5, and we'll do F5. And if we go back here and refresh, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 7 or 6 databases here. So one way that you can drop a database is basically just right clicking the name, delete, and you are uh, presented with this window. Ideally, you can just highlight this and just hit OK, and that would drop it. This is necessarily most of the time because if someone is uh, running a transaction on this database at the same time that you're trying to drop it, it would error out. It would not let you drop without closing the connections to the database. Um, so what we can do just to have an idea what exactly happens when we press OK, we can just script this out. I'm gonna script it to clipboard, cancel here, and just do Control A, Control V. And this is pretty much the script that gets executed when you hit OK. So what it does here, I'm gonna take you step by step. It deletes all the backup files on the hard disk, okay, on your drive. That's including the data files, the log files. Okay, and then it switches to the master database, and then it drops the database. So, in order for us to have a successful drop, we are gonna have to do a few extra steps, and that includes setting the database to single user mode. So, when you set the database to single user mode, that means that this connection, wherever you're, like this query window, this SPID right here, is the only connection that's connected to the database. So you know for sure that this is your connection, and when you drop it, you're certain that your connection is the only connection that's uh, working with the database at the moment. So you're not gonna have any issues while dropping the database, saying, hey, like there's someone else running a transaction. You cannot drop the database while that's going on. So uh, we know that we're gonna have to execute a couple of commands. We're also gonna know, we need to know that we have to create a cursor with a while loop that would just loop on the names of the databases that we have available here. So if we do something like this, select from sys dot databases, and let's see, select just the name. As you can see here, this metadata query just provides us with all the names of the databases. So we just want to drop these databases, the ones that we know we created, but we need to make sure that we do not touch these databases. Or, for this matter, like any other databases that you don't want to delete. Like, for example, we just want to delete all of this, but leave the first five alone. So for that, we need a cursor with a where clause in order for us to filter the list of the databases that will get dropped. Again, this list is going to be dynamic. So every time you run this script, you don't want to go back and edit the script. It's just a one click, it's a fire and go scenario. So you want to make sure that you do not drop the databases that you do not need to drop. So let's get started. Uh, we're gonna have to declare a few variables. Again, if we go here, Control Z, let me go back to our script here. So we're going to be using dynamic SQL. So for now, we know that for sure we're going to need three variables to hold these three values. So we need one that would use master. We need one that would drop the database. We need a statement that runs this query right here to clean up the files. And like I mentioned earlier, we need another statement that alters the database into single user mode. So let's get started. So we're gonna declare a few variables. Declare, and I'm just gonna, for this video's sake, we're gonna keep it simple. Declare SQL1, and that's gonna be dynamic SQL. It's recommended to have it in varchar. Okay, again, this is something that's gonna be universal, so you never know what kind of text would be inserted into these statements. So to be safe, we just need to turn everything into nvarchar. So nvarchar, and I'm gonna give it the size of, let's say, let's go with 500. I'm gonna make it extra large. And for our second SQL2 and varchar 500. And let me do that. Control C, control. This one is gonna be 4, 3. So as you can see here, I just used a single declare and just added all my variables separated with a comma. But you can of course do declare SQL2, declare SQL3. This is just, a little bit shorter and neater. And um, so that's all the variables we need for now. We are also gonna need a cursor like I mentioned before, and I have a template here that I worked on earlier. So to save some time, I'm gonna go ahead and just paste it here, and let me show you. So this is the cursor template. Basically, I keep this saved in my template, so every time I don't have to go in and, just write like 7 or 8 lines of code. Um, so I'm using a fast forward cursor. This is not really necessarily for our case here because again, uh, we're only looping over not a big number of rows. So fast forward is the fastest or one of the fastest types of cursors. It basically just moves forward. It does not go back. Uh, it does not go to the end. It does not go to the beginning. It just moves forward. It just loops through all the rows that you have. Pretty much these rows. Okay, so it only moves down the list. Okay, so we're declaring the the cursor. Second line is its type, and 4, this is our source. So when you, this is again, this is the body of the cursor. 4 is also a part of the cursor body. But 4, we are just pointing the cursor to the source, which is this here. So if you guys remember a few minutes ago how I brought this up, so I'm gonna do it again. So I'm gonna say for select name from sys.databases. Okay. Again, this brings up the same list. So I'm gonna go ahead and execute this part. Again, this is the same list, but I mentioned that we don't want to drop certain databases, especially master, temp, model, and MSDB. So what we can do here is just say where name. Sorry, I'm noticing that my fans are kicking in. Hopefully the mic is not picking up the noise. Okay. Um, so I'm gonna say where name not in. So again, this is how we're gonna get this dynamic list. So when you run this on a certain server, you just want it to pick up all the names but these names. But if you say where name in and just give the names of these databases, that means if you run it later on and you have a few other databases that are on the server, that means you're gonna go back in and enter the names in these parentheses here. So again, it's all about making things simpler. So we're gonna say where name not in. So basically get all the names but these names. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Master temp db. What else? Let's see. We need model. We need MSDB. Also, I'm using this database for replication. so we don't want to drop it. And also, if any database is used for replication, it will not be dropped. I think we can go back and show you how that works. But anything that used for replication, it has replication objects running in the background. It's not a user. It's the database is used by SQL Server itself, so it will refuse to be dropped because it's being used for replication. Let's go back here and check. I'm not sure if it's still uh, being replicated. Yeah, it is. So it will not be dropped. As you can see here, it has a SQL Server agent job that's running. There you go. So this job right here. So it would refuse to be dropped. So for now, we are just gonna go ahead and put the name here to make sure that it doesn't get dropped. So we're name not in. Let me move this to the next line. Okay. So now we know that my cursor is pointed to pull the names or to pull the rows from this list. So if we go here, you're gonna see all the databases but these. There you go. And these are the ones that we want to drop. Okay. So again, this is all a part of the body. So for put in your select statement or string or whatever you need to feed into the cursor, and then open cursor, and we're gonna say fetch next from cursor name. So we're gonna fetch one after one into. So we need to fetch these values, these strings into a variable. So I'm gonna go up here and let's do that. I'm gonna, you know what? Let's create a fresh variable so it's a little bit clearer. Declare at db name, that's gonna be in varchar. Let's just say it's gonna be 100. Okay. And so we're gonna fetch these values into this. So into, once you go back here and say db name, I think I need to refresh my IntelliSense. There you go. So I'm gonna fetch every single value into this right here, to this variable. And while this list has more rows, keep going. So while fetch status equals 0, if this equals 0, that means that there is more to it. There is more values in the data set that the data source. So begin end. This is all a part of the while loop, okay? So begin end, and before we end the body of the while loop, we're gonna fetch next. So basically whatever statement you gave on top, you just copy paste it in the bottom here. That means after it's done running all the queries on the first value, fetch next from cursor name. So move on to the next value and insert it into DB name. Okay. And at the end, you just close the cursor and deallocate all the resources. Again, that's all a template that I have for the cursor. So here's the actual work, the body of the while loop. So as we said earlier, we need to have a few statements. Okay, so let me type them down here and I'll show you how we can integrate them into dynamic SQL. So we know that we need a statement that says use master to switch us back to the master DB, right? Secondly, we need one that says, again, that's not in order, but we need one that says drop database, and that's gonna be the name of the databases which we know is assigned into this variable. So it's gonna be DB name. Okay. We also need this statement. If you guys remember it, the stored procedure that cleans up the files from the disk. And I believe it was something like execute msdb. Let's see if IntelliSense helps us with this. dbo dot sp underscore delete. And I believe it was this one. Yep. Okay. And this takes a variable of all this data time. Let's see. Database name equals and DB name. Yeah, I think backup history. I think this is not the right one. Let's see. Database. There you go. This is the one that we need because it takes a variable, has a parameter that points to the database name, which you need the files to be dropped. So this is the right one. Yep, here you go. Okay, so we know that these are the statements that we pulled from this menu right here. And we need another one that alters the database into single user mode. So that's gonna be written like that. Alter and then database. And we know that this is gonna be the uh, name of the database that's gonna be assigned into this variable by the cursor. Okay, and then we're gonna say set single underscore user with rollback immediate. So how did I get this? Well, let's see. Copy. I'm gonna simply just go here and Google this. There you go. So with rollback immediate, this basically rolls back any current transactions. But again, like what we're doing here is dropping the database and deleting all the files on disk. So this is not really necessarily uh to do, but you know, I mean we can just get rid of it. Let's see. It's a nice feature to have to roll back transactions. That's if we're not deleting the files, and that's given that we're just dropping the database or like detaching the database from the server, but not deleting the files. Because that means now with having this statement right here, that writes back to the log. So we can just get rid of this. Okay. So set single user, we have to say on. So we're setting single user mode on. Okay, so let's see. So now here comes the fun part, which is assigning our dynamic SQL statements. I'm not sure why it's not pulling. Did we do something wrong here? Mm, yeah, I guess it's just IntelliSense acting weird. Um, well, there's definitely something wrong. Maybe it's a comma. Let's see. I think I have a mistake somewhere, which I don't really see. Okay, let's see. That is, oh, I guess it just needed the word set. So now I'm setting the variable names. So first thing that we need to do is putting the database into single user mode. So I'm gonna use this statement. So let me just cut it from here, paste it here. And again, this will take strings only. And in the beginning of it, we just have to put capital N to convert this into a varchar string. But as you can see here, this, if we execute this statement right here, this will be wrong. Yep, because this part, this variable here is going to be dynamic. This will be changed with every execution of the while loop. So what we need to do is we're going to do space plus plus again. So what we're doing now is just we are concatenating these three values. So alter database, the name of the database that we're getting from the cursor, and then adding this part right here, which is setting the single user mode. And we're gonna do something similar with the rest of the queries that we have in the bottom here. So after we do that, we need to go ahead and set our second variable to equals, and we need this right here. And similarly, we're gonna do that. And I can add a space plus the name of the database. Oops, I need to get rid of this. Okay, then I'm gonna set the third one. It's gonna be just the use master. And this has to be a capital N. And I'm just gonna use the drop database. So that's the last one. Gotta make sure that you leave a space. because we know that this will be followed with another value, which is the DB name. Okay, so that's it for the statements. So after we assign these uh, variables, these values, they're gonna be run in the order that we are gonna have here. So in order to run these statements, we need to do a execute, and we have to give it the order that we want to run these statements in. So what I need to do is I prefer to start with master. So this is gonna be SQL3. So execute SQL3, then so you can have it on a second line, or you can simply just put a semicolon, execute. This would be the alter statement to turn single user mode on. So this will be at SQL1 execute. Second step is to delete the files. So at SQL2, then execute the drop at SQL4. Oops. Okay. So with every iteration of this while loop, these statements will be executed. The only difference that's gonna happen is just the name of the databases. Okay. So what we can do in order for us to still go with the execution, even if one of the databases, let's say this database, which would get dropped, for example, one, two, which would get dropped third. If there's an issue here, we want to keep going with attempting the drop of the rest of the databases. So what we can do here is have a try and catch block to catch any errors that would happen. So, sorry, that would be begin, try, and try, begin, catch, and catch. And we can have a few statements here to kind of read a log while this is going on to make sure everything is running properly. What we can do here is just declare a new variable that would hold our message. Declare, I'm just gonna call it MSG, short for message. And this doesn't need to be an invar char, so it's just gonna be a var char. It's gonna hold a small statement. So begin try. So it's gonna try to execute all these statements in sequential order. And if all of this succeeds, then I just want to see a message to kind of tell me what's going on. So what I can do is begin try. I'll go here and I'm gonna set my message to thing to drop, and then just the name of the database is, or the name of the database that these statements will be executed on. So we can just go here and say plus at db name. Okay, so we're gonna see this message, and then it's gonna attempt to execute all of this. And if all of this succeeds, we want to see another confirmation message. So that would go here. We're gonna set message to a new variable or a new value that says, database has been dropped or something like that. Uh, we can start with the database name. Go here and say plus has been dropped. Okay. And if it dropped, maybe we can see something else, just like a simple line that separates all these statements, because they can stack up if you have multiple databases. So we can just say something like this: print replicate. I'm just gonna print a bunch of stars, and so instead of typing uh star like 50 or 80 or 100 times, we can just use replicate, the replicate function, and we're just gonna print star like 60 times or something. If we do that, like, let's see, basically it's just gonna print a line of stars. um, we can maybe go a little bit bigger. I don't know, 80. There you go. I think that's wide enough to cover that text. So if we go and run this code, what we're gonna see is we're not gonna be seeing these messages live. Everything will just show up after the while loop is done executing. Okay, let me explain that one more time. So this setting the message to this, and if we go back here and say just hey, print this message with whatever it contains, which would say it drop attempting to drop whatever name, we're not gonna see this. This would only show after everything is done execution. So we don't want this to happen. We want to see it as it's running in the background. We want to see what's going on. If if you have a lot of databases that are being dropped and one of them errors out while the script is running, you want to go back and open a new query window, and or just see what database didn't get dropped and maybe attempt to drop it manually. So instead of waiting like 15-20 minutes and then seeing what happened, you would be seeing it as it's happening. So what we need to do in this case is use the raise error uh, clause. This would basically just spit out a message for us while the execution of this while loop is going on. So in order for us to use this, we just go here and say raise error, and oops, There you go. That didn't look right. And raise error, as you can see here, it would take this message and I'm just gonna say 0 dash 1 and it that would be the syntax for it, and uh, you can simply do with no wait. So with no wait, it's not gonna wait for this execution to finish. It would just raise the error and print out this message. And we can actually do the same with this. And let's see, we can also do that. Why not? Message. Okay, so this is our try block. And if any errors happen in this block right here, what we need to do is come over here into our catch block, and we just want to type something that just tells us, hey, there is an issue that occurred with whatever database. So what we can do is we're just gonna print out the error message, and that's the syntax for it. Message. So this would contain a lot of information like the error message itself, the error number, uh, and a bunch of useful information, system generated information. Okay. And we would also need to set again message to something, that's just a little bit clearer for us, that says whatever database did not get dropped. So we can say uh, okay. Similarly, we're gonna do the same thing, and I think that's it. uh we can also do that, just to also separate these blocks. Again, we're only gonna be seeing either this, the star, or here we can just give it another symbol. Let's go with X, to indicate that there's an issue or something. So we're either gonna see this if all of that executes with no issues, or we're gonna see this if there's an issue that happens and the execution moves to the catch block. And I think we are ready to give this a try. Let's see. Yep, everything looks good. Let's clear this. And what I would like to do, again, all these databases are really, really small, so this would finish executing in a fraction of a second. So what we can do is we can add a delay counter for us to have a chance to be able to read the log as it's getting bigger. So what we can do is, let's see, we can say just wait for delay, and let's see. can go with 00. And let's go with, I think 3 seconds is enough. So after it prints these statements, if everything, runs properly, it's gonna wait for 3 seconds and then move on to the next. Or we can actually do that here. This can be done at any point. So before it fetches the new record, it's just gonna wait for 3 seconds. And again, this can be done at any point. So let's go with here. This way, if an issue happens, then it would still wait 3 seconds before moving on. And we are gonna go ahead and run execute. Let's go to the messages. Okay, so as you guys see here, I have a syntax error. Okay, I have a syntax error somewhere. And the reason that we did not get to see the X just because we didn't do that part here. So let's see. Set single user on. I think this is the right syntax. Alter database. The name of the database. Single user. Maybe it doesn't have the word on. Let's see. And Google is your best friend. Hmm. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so there is no on, it's just set single user. So let's go back here and let's give it one more attempt. So as you can see here, this is the log. And I think 3 seconds are not enough. That was moving a little bit quicker. So let's go ahead with 5 seconds. So again, I mean this is a good opportunity for us to see what was going on. So it grabs the name of the database. It tries. So the issue that we had here is the first line that gets executed, or the second, um, which is this one right here. Execute 3. Let's use master. Uh, Here. So this is the issue that we had at this step. So we know here that once there's an issue that goes on with any of these steps, it would not move on. It would just break from this block and move to this catch block. So the order is that it would print out the error message. So attempting. So far we're good. There's an issue that happened. It's not gonna move on. We're not gonna see this statement. It would go here directly and print out the error message. So as you guys see here, this is a system generated message. So we had a syntax error, and then it would tell us that whatever database that it was trying to drop did not get dropped. And it's gonna do the rest uh, of the databases, but it's still using the same syntax, same code, same queries, so they all would fail. But if you have different errors that would pop up with dropping different databases, then you're gonna be able to tell what's going on with every distinct database. So now that this is fixed, let's give it another try and see if it works this time. Okay, so attempting to drop the database, it dropped it, it printed out this divider, it moves on to the second one, dropped it, and so on. Okay, that's it. We can go back here and refresh. As you can see, everything is dropped. Hope this video was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. And again, this can be used for many other scenarios. You just have to set your dynamic SQLs to whatever queries you need to execute, and you can use the same structure as this, and it should work with no issues. Uh, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.